Here's a number that should make you angry. If you'd put $500 a year into an investment earning 12%, in just 5 years you'd have over $3,100. In 10 years, nearly $8,800. And yet most people leave their first $50, $500, or $5,000 sitting in a savings account earning next to nothing, because nobody ever taught them there was another option. That's the exact problem Nancy Dunnan set out to solve with How to Invest $50 to $5,000. And here's the twist that makes this book worth your next 15 minutes. It's not written for the wealthy. It's written for the average new investor, who, according to the research Dunnan cites, was 34 years old, female, and starting out with about $2,200. Sound like anyone you know? Maybe you. This book treats investing like a ladder. Each rung represents a little more money and a little more sophistication, starting at $50 and ending at $5,000. And today, we're climbing that entire ladder together, rung by rung. So by the end, you'll know exactly where every dollar you save should go next. Before Dunnan sends you off to banks and brokers, she stops to explain the rules of the game: taxes and retirement accounts. The book was written just after a major overhaul of the tax code, and Dunnan's takeaway is simple. Lower tax brackets mean investing pays off more than ever because you keep more of what you earn. One detail matters for any era: capital gains. The profit you make selling an investment get taxed at the same rate as your regular income. That single change, she argues, means you should stop making decisions based on tax tricks and start making them based on whether an investment is actually good. Then comes what Dunnan calls one of the most powerful tools in personal finance: the IRA, or individual retirement account. Her pitch is almost dramatic. She says life expectancy has crept past 73, and nearly everyone will eventually stop working, so preparing for that stretch isn't optional. The math backs her up. Start contributing $2,000 a year to an IRA at age 25, earning a modest 10%. And by 65, you could have north of $880,000. Wait until 45 to start, and that same effort nets you barely over $100,000. Her point isn't subtle. Time is the real asset, not the amount you start with. She walks through where to actually put IRA money: a bank certificate of deposit for the cautious, a mutual fund for those chasing growth, even zero-coupon bonds for anyone locking in a target amount for retirement. And for the self-employed, she introduces the KEO plan, the IRA's more generous cousin, letting you shelter up to 20% of self-employment income, capped at $30,000 a year. Now the real ladder climbing begins. With just $50, Dunnan says your job isn't to get rich, it's to build the habit of saving somewhere safer than your pocket. First stop: the bank. She breaks down the difference between commercial banks, savings and loans, and credit unions, and drops a detail most people never think about: how often your interest compounds matters. Daily compounding beats monthly, which beats quarterly, which beats the annual compounding some banks still default to. On paper, it looks tiny, but over 10 or 20 years, that frequency difference adds up to real money. She also flags something for safety-conscious viewers. Check that your bank carries FDIC insurance, since even in the mid-1980s, hundreds of banks were on the government's own problem list. And she gives you an actual script for the bank checkup conversation. Ask exactly how interest is compounded, whether you'll be charged for frequent withdrawals, and whether the bank has any dead days at the end of a quarter where no interest accrues at all. Most people never ask these questions, which is exactly why banks can get away with quietly paying less than advertised. Credit unions get real enthusiasm from Dunnan. Because they're not-for-profit cooperatives owned by their members, they typically pay 2 to 3 percentage points more interest than a commercial bank, with lower loan rates too. The catch is you need a common bond to join, like a shared employer or community. Next, she turns to Uncle Sam himself: Series EE savings bonds. Buy one for half its face value. $25 gets you a $50 bond. And if you hold it the full term, your money essentially doubles, backed by the full faith and credit of the government. It's about as close to risk-free as investing gets, and Dunnan calls it ideal for parents saving toward a child's education. Then, surprisingly, she says $50 can get you into the stock market. Some companies sell shares directly to investors, bypassing brokers entirely. Dividend reinvestment plans let you automatically buy more shares with your payout instead of cashing a check. And Merrill Lynch's old ShareBuilder plan let people invest by dollar amount rather than by share. So you could literally buy a fraction of one share of stock. Finally, she makes a case for investment clubs, small groups who pool their money and learn to pick stocks together. Her favorite stat here: clubs with mixed-gender membership outperformed all-male clubs, averaging over 32% annual returns versus under 22%. Whether or not you buy the specific number, her larger point stands: investing socially lowers the intimidation factor for beginners. She even lays out the mechanics of starting your own. Find a dozen or so willing members, rotate the paperwork duties so no one person burns out, set a firm monthly contribution, and, her most important rule, keep investing on a regular schedule whether the market is up or down that month. Consistency, not timing, is what makes a club work. Once you've built a $50 cushion, Dunnan moves you toward accounts that do double duty, holding your cash and paying real interest. She starts with the Now account, negotiable order of withdrawal, essentially an interest-bearing checking account, one of the first of its kind once banks were deregulated enough to offer it. The trade-off: you need to maintain a minimum balance or fees eat your interest alive. Then she introduces money market mutual funds, and this is where the book gets genuinely clever. These funds pool your money with thousands of other investors to buy the kind of ultra-short-term, high-quality debt, Treasury bills, corporate IOUs, big bank certificates that ordinary savers could never access alone. The payoff: almost double the interest of a basic savings account, with your money still available whenever you need it. Finally, certificates of deposit (CDs). You agree to park money for a fixed period in exchange for a locked-in, usually higher, interest rate. Dunnan's advice here is refreshingly practical. Shop around, because rates for similar CDs can vary by a full percentage point between banks in the very same city, and ask specifically how the interest compounds, because compounded and simple interest can produce very different real returns on paper. At the $1,000 mark, Dunnan introduces you to bonds, essentially IOUs. When you buy one, you're lending money to a corporation or government, and they pay you interest called the coupon rate until they pay back your principal at maturity. She teaches one rule you'll want to remember forever: bond prices move in the exact opposite direction of interest rates. When rates rise, existing bonds, which pay the old, lower rate, become less attractive, so their price falls. When rates fall, older bonds holding higher rates become more valuable, so their price rises. She also flags the risk of a call. Many corporate bonds let the issuer pay you back early if rates drop enough that they'd rather borrow cheaper elsewhere, which cuts off the steady income stream you were counting on. If that worries you, she recommends looking for bonds that specifically advertise call protection for a set number of years. She covers 3 flavors: corporate bonds, which pay the most but carry real default risk and should be checked against Moody's or Standard & Poor's ratings; municipal bonds, which are exempt from federal tax and sometimes state and local tax too, making them especially attractive to higher earners; and zero-coupon bonds, which you buy at a steep discount and which pay you nothing along the way. Instead, the entire return arrives as one lump sum at maturity. She gives a memorable example: a grandmother locked in a $10,000 college fund for her granddaughter for just over $1,000 up front, using a zero maturing right when tuition bills would start. Next comes U.S. Treasury notes and bonds, considered about as safe as investing gets, since they're backed directly by the federal government, exempt from state and local taxes, and highly liquid. She even walks through how ordinary people can buy them directly at a Treasury auction, bypassing a broker's fee altogether. Then stock mutual funds, pooled, professionally managed portfolios that let a $1,000 investor own a slice of dozens of companies at once. Dunnan draws a sharp line between load funds, which charge a sales commission up front, and no-load funds, which don't. And she's blunt that since performance between the two is essentially a coin flip, there's rarely a reason to pay the load. Finally, Ginnie Mae's pools of government-backed home mortgages that pay investors a monthly stream of income. They're safe from default, but not immune to interest rate swings, since homeowners tend to refinance and pay off their loans early whenever rates drop, which can shrink your expected return. With $2,500 saved, Dunnan opens up a few more sophisticated cash tools. The money market deposit account, or MMDA, is a bank account insured up to $100,000 that pays money market-style rates without locking your cash away, though you're limited to just 3 checks a month. The SuperNow account is its cousin. Unlimited check writing, decent interest, but it demands you keep a healthy minimum balance or your rate collapses back down to the legal floor. And she gives you a piece of mental math worth memorizing regardless of the era. The rule of 72. Divide 72 by your interest rate, and you get roughly how many years it takes your money to double. At 9%, that's 8 years. At 12%, 6 years. It's the simplest gut check for comparing any 2 investment options. She closes this section with public utility stocks. Historically steady, high dividend-paying companies considered safe enough, in her words, for widows and orphans, making them one of the few individual stocks reasonable to buy even before you've hit the full $5,000 mark. This is the top of the ladder, where Dunnan finally sends you into the deeper end of the pool. First, single premium whole life insurance, a hybrid product that's really an investment wearing an insurance costume. You pay one lump sum, your money grows tax-deferred, and you can later borrow against it, tax-free, without ever technically withdrawing it. It's a niche tool, but a clever one for the right saver. Then, finally, common stocks, outright ownership in companies. Dunnan lays out 5 checkpoints for picking one. Rising earnings per share over 5 years, dividends that grow alongside those earnings, a solid Standard & Poor's rating, at least 10 million shares outstanding for liquidity, and a reasonable price-to-earnings ratio, which tells you how much investors are willing to pay for each dollar the company earns. Her golden rule for diversification: never put more than 10% of your money in one company, or 20% in one industry. She also teaches you to read a stock listing in the newspaper: dividend, yield, P/E ratio, daily high and low, the same fundamental columns still displayed on every finance app today, just digitized. And she doesn't stop at buying. She lists 7 stock market habits to avoid, like falling in love with a stock, chasing a hot tip without checking the underlying facts, or selling your winners too early while stubbornly holding on to your losers hoping they'll bounce back. From there, 2 more advanced tools for the $5,000 investor. Margin accounts, which let you borrow from your broker to buy more stock than your cash alone allows. Powerful, but dangerous, since a falling stock can trigger a margin call demanding more cash immediately. And options. Contracts giving you the right to buy a call or sell a put, a stock at a set price within a set time. Dunnan's example is vivid. Instead of spending $7,500 on 100 shares of a stock, you might spend just $400 on an option, and, if you're right about the stock's direction, walk away with several $100s of profit on a fraction of the investment. Get it wrong, though, and that option can expire completely worthless. She closes the book with a practical appendix on how to actually read a company's annual report, starting counterintuitively at the back with the auditor's statement, since that's where accountants bury red flags in dry, careful language. What makes this book hold up, decades of interest rate cycles later, isn't the specific percentages. Those will always change. It's the underlying architecture. Match your investment to your amount, your timeline, and your tolerance for risk, and move up the ladder deliberately as your savings grow. Start with safety. Add liquidity. Only then reach for growth. Dunnan's closing line is really the whole book in one sentence. No one cares as much about your money as you do. Financial institutions will always be competing for your cash, but only you have the incentive to make sure it's actually working for you. So if you've been letting your first $50 or your first $5,000 just sit there in a low-interest account out of habit or hesitation, consider this your nudge to start climbing the ladder, one rung at a time. If this breakdown helped you see your own savings differently, hit subscribe. We break down one money or mindset-changing book every week.